Most people think they understand Sarasota's cost of living before they ever get here. They've Googled it, they've compared charts, they've seen the headlines. Sarasota is expensive. Florida is cheaper than where I live. Taxes are lower, so it balances out. All of those statements are partially true, and that's exactly why people get this wrong. Because cost of living in Sarasota, it's not a single number. It's a series of trade-offs that show up quietly over time inside your routine. This video is not about whether Sarasota is cheap or expensive. That's the wrong question. The real question is, what does Sarasota cost you once daily life sets in? Because two households with the same income can have completely different experiences here. One feels stretched and the other feels settled. Not because of housing price alone, but because of how Sarasota actually functions day to day. Here's where the misunderstanding starts. Most online cost of living comparisons are built around categories: housing, utilities, transportation, groceries, healthcare. Those categories look clean on paper, but Sarasota doesn't behave cleanly. Costs don't rise evenly here. They cluster, and if you don't know where those clusters are, you can move here thinking you're prepared and still feel caught off guard 6 months later. This is especially true for people relocating from large metro areas. They see lower property taxes, no state income tax, comparable home prices to where they're coming from, and they assume the rest evens out. And sometimes it does, but often it doesn't. Because Sarasota trades one kind of expense for another. You may save on taxes and winter utilities, but you might spend more on insurance, on travel, on convenience, and the biggest cost most people don't account for at all: time. Time spent driving, time spent waiting, time spent planning around seasonality. That's a cost, and it compounds. This episode exists to reset the conversation, not to scare you, not to sell you, but to give you clarity before assumptions turn into frustration. If you're considering a move to Sarasota, this will help you understand what costs are real, which ones are exaggerated, and which ones people don't talk about until after they're here. And if you already live here, this will probably explain why your budget feels different than you expected, even if the math technically works. We're going to walk through what people think Sarasota costs, what it actually costs in practice, and why location and lifestyle choices matter more than averages. Because cost of living isn't a headline. It's how your days feel once the move is over. And if you understand that before you choose where to live, Sarasota can feel manageable, even comfortable. If you don't, it can feel surprisingly heavy. Let's start by breaking down the biggest misconception of all: the idea that housing price alone tells you what Sarasota costs. Once housing is accounted for, this is usually where people start to feel surprised. Not shocked, not panicked, just recalibrating, because Florida has a very specific cost profile and Sarasota amplifies it in certain ways. Let's start with one of the biggest ones: insurance. Auto insurance in Florida is higher than most people expect, even for drivers with clean records, even for people coming from large metro areas. There are a few reasons for this. Florida has a high volume of claims, a large population of seasonal drivers, weather-related risk, and a legal environment that drives litigation. Sarasota in particular sees a mix of retirees, tourists, and full-time residents all sharing the same roads. That increases risk. So even though you may be driving fewer miles than you did in your northern city, your premium can still feel higher. The same is true for homeowners insurance. This is not unique to Sarasota, it's statewide, but it's something people often underestimate because it doesn't show up in listing prices. The key thing to understand is this: insurance is not a surprise cost. It's a known trade-off. And once it's accounted for correctly, it stops feeling like a shock and starts feeling like a line item. Next, let's talk about transportation. Gas prices fluctuate everywhere, but Sarasota's cost shows up differently. You may drive more than you expect, not because distances are extreme, but because daily life is spread out. Grocery stores, healthcare, dining, beach access. Sarasota isn't a tight urban grid. It's a series of connected zones. So even if your commute is short, your errand mileage adds up. That said, there's a balance here that matters. Many people trade long highway commutes, winter driving conditions, congested toll roads for slower speeds, predictable routes, year-round drivability. So while mileage may increase, stress often decreases. That is an important distinction. Now let's talk about restaurants and dining, because this is where people feel the cost emotionally? Dining out in Sarasota is not cheap, especially west of the trail. Downtown, tourism influences pricing. Season influences availability. Demand influences everything. But here's the part that people don't always recognize. Sarasota also has a strong culture of intentional dining. People eat out less frequently, but more meaningfully. They choose places they love. They sit longer. They make it an experience. And that shifts spending patterns. Instead of a casual, constant dining, people often move toward fewer meals out, but higher quality experiences and more home-centered routines. This is where Sarasota quietly wins for a lot of people. The lifestyle encourages slowing down, more time outside, more cooking at home, more casual socializing. You're not battling weather half the year. You're not rushing indoors. That alone changes how money is spent. And this is where positivity matters, because Sarasota gives back in ways that don't always show up on spreadsheets. You save on the winter clothing, the heating costs, the seasonal vehicle wear travel during winter months. And you gain outdoor living, year-round activity, access to nature, flexibility in how you spend your time, and time is where many people feel the biggest return. Shorter winters, more usable days, less planning around weather. For a lot of people, that alone justifies the trade-offs. The mistake is expecting Sarasota to be cheaper in every category. That's not the promise. The promise is a different allocation of cost. You spend more in some places and less in others. And if your lifestyle aligns with what Sarasota offers, that trade feels fair. If there's one thing that determines whether Sarasota feels affordable or exhausting, it's location. Not your price per square foot, not your list price, not even the taxes. It's location. Because Sarasota is not one market. It's a collection of micro lifestyles that price out very differently once you start living them. Two households can buy homes at the same price point and have completely different monthly realities. That difference usually shows up in three places: time, transportation, insurance exposure. Let's start with proximity. Living west of the trail near downtown or close to the water often means higher insurance premiums, higher maintenance costs, higher dining and convenience pricing. But it also means shorter drives, less gas usage, more walkability, less reliance on major corridors. Your costs concentrate in housing and insurance, but your daily life gets simpler. Now compare that to living farther east. Homes may be newer, insurance may feel more predictable, you often get more space for the money, but your daily costs shift. You drive more, you depend on specific roads, your timing matters more. Gas, vehicle wear, time spent in traffic, none of these are deal breakers. They're trade-offs. And this is where Sarasota quietly rewards self-awareness. If you work remotely, value flexibility, and like being close to activity, higher fixed costs may feel worth it because your daily life flows. If you have structured schedules, school drop-offs, or predictable routines, newer communities farther east may feel easier to manage even with longer drives. The problem happens when people choose location based on aspiration instead of function. They buy near the water but live mostly east. They buy east but spend all their time west. They underestimate how often they'll cross I-75. That's when costs start to feel heavy, because cost isn't just what you pay, it's how often you feel friction. Let's talk about seasonality, because this is another piece people underestimate. Living in Sarasota means accepting that parts of the year operate differently. Restaurants are busier, roads are fuller, appointments book out faster, and where you live determines how much of that seasonality you actually feel. If your daily routes overlap with tourist corridors, season feels louder. That sucked. Where you live determines how much of that seasonality you feel. Some neighborhoods insulate you, others amplify it. And if your daily routes overlap with tourist corridors, season feels louder. And if your routines stay more local, season becomes background noise. This is why long-term residents often choose neighborhoods that don't photograph well, but live incredibly well. They prioritize multiple route options, proximity to necessities, minimal dependency on one corridor. Those choices reduce stress, which indirectly reduces costs, because stress leads to convenient spending. Takeout instead of cooking, delivery instead of errands. impulse decisions instead of intentional ones, that's where Sarasota can sneak up on budgets. Now let's bring some balance back into this. Here's the positive side people often discover after settling in. Once you understand your patterns, Sarasota becomes very livable. People stop overspending on convenience. They settle into routines that match their location. They learn timing. They shop earlier, they eat later, they plan smarter, and suddenly the cost conversation shifts. By now, you can probably see the pattern, and it isn't cheap in a simple way either. It's selective, it rewards certain lifestyles very well, and it punishes others quietly. And that's why two people can move here with the same income and have completely different experiences. One feels stretched and frustrated, the other feels settled and grateful. The difference is not your budgeting skills, it's alignment. Sarasota gives a lot back if you value the things it offers. Time outside, mild winters, access to nature, a slower daily pace once you understand the rhythm. People who thrive here long-term tend to share a few traits. They value quality of life over constant stimulation. They don't need novelty every weekend. They're comfortable building routines instead of chasing variety. They use the outdoors instead of paying for entertainment. They walk more, they host more, they simplify, and this is where Sarasota quietly shines. You don't need to escape winter. You don't need to plan your life around weather. You don't need to get through half of the year. That alone changes how people feel day to day. Now let's be honest about who struggles here. People who expect Sarasota to function like a major metro often feel disappointed because people who want dense nightlife, constant events, and late night convenience sometimes feel bored or constrained. People who hate planning around seasonality or traffic patterns may feel irritated. None of that means Sarasota is wrong. It just means it's not universal. And that's an important thing to say out loud because relocation works best when expectations are realistic. Sarasota works beautifully for people who want a calmer pace without isolation, access to culture without chaos, a lifestyle that supports health, routine, and balance. It works especially well for people who are ready to trade more space for more simplicity, more choice for more ease, more accumulation for more intention. And here's the part people don't always expect. Once people settle into Sarasota, many find they spend less overall than they thought they would. Not because costs are lower across the board, but because life asks for less. Less commuting, stress, less seasonal planning, less escape, spending. Vacations become simpler, weekends feel fuller without being expensive, and daily life feels more complete. That's the return on investment, not financial in the strict sense. Lifestyle. And that's why people stay. So if you're considering a move here, the right question isn't, can I afford Sarasota? It's, does Sarasota support the life I actually want to live? And if the answer is yes, the trade-offs tend to feel reasonable. If the answer is no, they tend to feel heavy. And that clarity matters before you choose a neighborhood, a budget, or a timeline. Because Sarasota rewards people who choose with intention, not hype, not fear, just honesty about how they want their days to feel. If this episode helped reframe the cost conversation for you, let me know. And if you're planning a move, subscribe. The next episode breaks down how people misjudge Sarasota's cost because they compare the wrong cities and ignore how lifestyle changes everything. Comment the area you're considering or the biggest cost question you're trying to answer. Subscribe for long-form, grounded insight into Sarasota so you can choose with clarity, not pressure. Cost makes sense once lifestyle does. And that's what we're unpacking next.